Great to have you with us tonight on Golf Central. It wasn't just a climb, but a major vault. 28 spots in the Race to Dubai standings for Rory McIlroy, putting him in prime position to capture this season-long title for the fourth time in his very storied career.
Absolutely, Lisa. And now in that prime position, Rory could put an exclamation point on what has been an impressive 2019 already for Rory. It was a great week in Shanghai for the WGC-HSBC Champions, where Rory McIlroy picked up his fourth PGA Tour victory of 2019. Now here's Rory, in his own words, as he looks back at the week that was.
I've always enjoyed playing here. I've played well. I feel like the course suits my game. And I feel like this tournament, I started coming here in 2009. So, 10 years, the course and the tournament have kept on improving and progressing.
Rory a winner again over the weekend as we take a look at the current standings of the FedEx Cup. Rory is in that second position. Lanto Griffin continues to lead the way. And Lisa down at number 10. There is Mr. Tiger Woods as we send it over to you.
Yeah, two of the best we've seen, the last 10, 15 years. Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, as we say hello to Tripp Eisenhower. I thought it's always interesting listening to Rory, but he's talking about playing consistently week in and week out, and that's what we've seen from him. Obviously, one of the best drivers the game's ever known, a fantastic iron player. But as you pointed out earlier today, this is a guy who is now making putt after putt and looks extremely comfortable doing so. Yeah. You talked to Brad Faxon, who has been working with him, for about a year now, a little bit over. What did Brad say?
Well, he has. I mean, they've been working on what Dr. Rotella, Bob Rotella, this famed sports psychologist, drilled into my head over the many, many years I worked with him. And Brad said the same thing, drilled into it. It's free. Watch great athletes. There's flow. There's all this. There's not a lot of woodenness in how they perform. It looks easy. It looks flowing. Rory's putting used to be more wooden, more rigid than it is now. It looks free. He's more carefree as well. But that attitude is translated statistically into some really consistent performance. And here, no problem. You see off the tee, yes, you mentioned. And, of course, tee to green. He's the best in the game. What isn't a fair fight is when your putting is your worst strokes gained metric and it's 24th. Okay, 24th is really good. That means you're gaining strokes every single round. The whole package is there, and that's why many of us, I'm not alone as an analyst on television saying that Rory McIlroy is going to back up his 2019 with a fantastic 2020, and it's going to translate to major championships. I really believe he's got multiple major championships in him next year. He's going to contend, I think, across all four, but I really think he could be the guy that could put up two majors like Brooks Koepka's kind of been doing the last couple of years.
And as you mentioned, he's confident through the bag, and you can see it in the putter. No great putters ever putted well with having tension in the stroke or in the hands.
He's got less of it.
Absolutely made a huge difference. Now it's time for What's in the Winner's Bag, presented by Golf Galaxy. He's a tailor-made guy, the M5 driver, 8 1/4 degrees loft, M6 for the 3-wood, M5 of the 5-wood, a more forgiving 4-iron with the P750, and then the muscle backs. You got to love them. 5 through pitch, the P730s, 3 MG wedges, the Spider X putter, and the TP5 golf ball.
What a year it has been for Rory McIlroy. 4 PGA Tour wins during the calendar year of 2019. It started in March with his victory at the Players. Then in early June, a final round 61 in Canada got him back in the winner's circle. Late August, Rory was impressive again at East Lake as he captured the Tour Championship and $15 million. Then over the weekend, another first-class effort in China. You take a look at his season in review. 24 starts, 3/4 of those top 10 finishes, those 4 victories, more than $10 million earnings, and that excludes the $15 million from the Tour Championship and the FedEx Cup with that $15 million. Tim Rosafort now alongside, and we're talking more about Rory, the big picture, and you and I were discussing it earlier, but what stands out to you from his 2019 when he looks back on what he has accomplished?
You know, Burko, since we're just two guys sitting around talking golf at the end of a fantastic year, I keep going back to the Players' Championship and how much that meant to Rory. You know, I've been to every one since the days of when it was across the street at Sawgrass and seen Hall of Famers win it year after year, but it never meant more to the winner, I thought, than McIlroy and him talking about where he was with his game, and sure, he played to back it up the rest of the season, and those are things that I think as we look forward to the 2020 year, we can't wait to see McIlroy in there with Rory, with Brooks, at a time now when you can really say there is a rivalry.
The LPGA Tour continues their Asian swing as they played the Swinging Skirts LPGA over the weekend. And for the second straight year, American Nelly Korda was victorious, first in 2018. Then again in 2019, she birdied the first playoff hole to defeat Caroline Bassan and Minjee Lee. Nelly Korda loves that event. Let's see who's in the race to the CME Globe. We're just a few weeks away from the season ender. Jin Young Ko, Brooke Henderson, John Eun Lee 6. They are your top three, but how about Nelly Korda all the way up to 5th, shaping up to be a great November on the LPGA Tour.
On Saturday, 45 players earned their LPGA Tour cards for next season after 8 grueling rounds in Pinehurst, North Carolina. 20-year-old Mooney He from China earned medalist honors, playing all 8 rounds under par to finish at 21 under. Two-time LPGA Tour winner Hee Young Park was solo second. And 18-year-old Yulimi No, who you'll remember just a couple months ago, Monday qualified for the Cambia Portland Classic, and she almost won the thing, finishing second to Hannah Green. But unfortunately, the biggest story of the week ended up being a rules violation that happened on Thursday, and it became public knowledge after eyebrows were raised by this tweet from Christina Kim. Here it is. Quick PSA. If you're a golfer, please read and know the rules. Please. Now, Kim was referring to a rules infraction she witnessed between her 2 playing partners midway through the round and reported it to a rules official. Those 2 players were Kendall Dye and Dewey Weber, both of whom were assessed 2-shot penalties for the infraction after their rounds, both of whom failed to earn their cards. Now, you can see here's the rule at issue 10-2, which addresses advice and other help during what a player must not do during a round: give advice to anyone in competition who is playing, ask anyone for advice other than player's caddy. And here's where it gets a little dicey: touch a player's equipment to learn information that would be given or asked by the other player. So as we get into this, yesterday on social media, Dye released a statement trying to reply to some of this. Here's a portion of it. I take 100% responsibility for the infraction, and shame on me for not knowing this was a rule. I am completely gutted for causing another innocent player 2 strokes during this incident, which was handled and closed in a private matter. However, I am very disappointed in a fellow player's unprofessional and public action for taking this to Twitter, to players and caddies in our field, and causing a huge distraction for myself and other players during such an important event. For more insight, we welcome in our major champion, Karen Stupples, who spends a lot of time inside the ropes with the players week in and week out as an on-course analyst. Now, Karen, this has been a tough one. Kendall also said in her statement that she's played professional golf for 10 years and she's witnessed this over 1,000 times between players, caddies, and the media. She's taken some heat for that. She's also been called a cheater on social media. So if you could clarify this in terms of what Kendall's actually talking about, what she has seen, and just your thoughts on the accusations at hand.
Well, in general, for her to be called a cheater, I think, is something that Christina Kim would dislike as well. I don't think there's any implication from Christina herself that she cheated in that. Kendall said that she didn't know that was a rule. And where Kendall has been confused, there's a sort of a grey area in that it is very common practice for caddies to peek in other caddy players' bags to see what club they are hitting on the par 3. You will also see caddies signal in the on-course commentators like myself or Jerry Foltz or Roger Maltby or whoever is out there, signaling what club the players are playing. So if you're observing as a player on the tee, you can see those signals. So you kind of know what club they're hitting anyway. And so it can be a little bit confusing if you were unaware that you couldn't actually ask for that help. You can look, you can peek, you can't move a towel, you can't dig around in the bag to have a look or have a nose, but it is very common for caddies to leave the bag there just for anybody to look into.
Stubbs, and this kind of goes to what you're talking about, because there is a culture in professional golf. You get used to seeing hand signals. And this is a gray area. Do you see this possibly changing in terms of the rules of golf? Because as a professional golfer, as you mentioned, you can go look in a bag, and that is not a penalty. But the minute you make a signal, then it is a penalty. So is it a situation of just being easily confused and being out there and what you're used to seeing day in and day out in terms of that discrepancy?
I do believe so. I think that you grow up and you play amateur golf and everything is, you don't ask for advice, you don't see it, but then you don't have caddies on the tee either. You're pulling your own bag and you're too busy working out your own numbers to do your own thing, and you just know that you don't ask people what they did. But that's not to stop when you turn pro. A caddy does have time to actually look in the bag and see what they got, and they would almost take it as being, the done thing to actually pay attention to see what the other player is using to gauge what the wind might be doing or to have some kind of an idea. It's part of when I'm even saying commentary, how much it is quite an advantage for a player to not be the guinea pig on the first hole, to not be the first player teeing off. And the rules of golf have changed so significantly this year. Now it's okay to tap down spike marks. In penalty areas, you can now ground the club. There's been a general relaxing of the rules, and there's been a general feeling of, an easing off of all things rules related. And I think that there can be a general feeling that this may have been okay as well.
I know you've talked a little bit with Christina on Twitter about exactly what happened, and a lot of people have questioned the timing. What are your thoughts in terms of the timing of calling this out to the rules officials?
Well, Christina chose her path and whatever she wanted to do, and that's her prerogative to do. And she didn't do anything wrong, by the way, in how she did it. But for my money, from my personal viewpoint, if it had been me and I had seen something, I would have found it really difficult not to have said, oh, I think I've just seen you do something wrong. I don't know, but to me, I'm not sure. We need to go find out. And then, in my mind, the player would hopefully then say, oh, my goodness, I had no idea. We must find out. And then it becomes the onus on the other player involved. And then almost then Christina wouldn't have even had to have needed to bother with all of this. It would have been down on the player. If the player themselves that causes the infraction doesn't say, well, I don't think I did anything wrong, I'm not going to say anything, then Christina then goes and says, oh, by the way, I think there was a problem. If that had been me, that's probably how I would have handled it. And I just think that it leaves it open for, well, what would have happened if they had done it again on other holes? What happened? It seems to me that at the time the players should know. It just is tough. But like I said, Christina did nothing wrong technically in doing what she did. She chose that path because she felt it would be better for the other players to not be bothered with it during their rounds. Of course, there's no way of knowing what the other players would have wanted because we didn't find out.
Karen Stuppel, certainly appreciate you calling in and joining us and clarifying some of this.
You're welcome.
It had been 5 years since Brendon Todd won the 2014 Byron Nelson for his first win on tour. Later that season, he cracked the top 50 in the world rankings, but by the end of 2016, Todd had lost his card and basically his swing. He missed 37 of 41 cuts from 2016 to 2018 and fell outside the top 2,000 in the world. Todd had the full swing yips, something he discussed this August.
Most people think of the yips as putting yips, where you get over a 3-footer and your mind just goes crazy and you miss the putt. But for me, it was, long irons off the ground, 3-woods off the ground. And, it started at the end of 2015 and it really didn't let up until the end of 2018. So for me, it was just kind of this learning process, understanding, why are they happening, and maybe what do I need to do mechanically and physically and mentally to get myself out of it, and the yips they're a scary thing. I mean, you basically get over the ball and for 18 holes, you hit a lot of shots and there's a lot of mental focus. And for me, I didn't really know when it was coming. I'd hit it fine on the range and get out there and just kind of freeze up over the ball. Your mind's going crazy. All the tension goes in your arms and hands. And by the time you get to the top of your swing, you just get steep and block it, and it's gone.
Certainly is crazy. This game is a battle, even for the best players in the world, and you can see the PGA Tour tweeting Brendon Todd, congratulating him for that fantastic win.
A remarkable comeback. Tripp is back, and that sound was with Chantel McCabe, the Korn Ferry Tour Finals.
Yep.
That was in Columbus, Ohio. You and I were both there, those final 4 events. We've documented a 3-year struggle, but where did it truly begin for Brendon Todd, and how bad did it get?
Oh, it was horrible for him. And I can tell you, so few players come back from this abyss. It started at the BMW. He was playing at the BMW Championship in 2015. And his face, he tried to get a little more shut at the top. And he said he hit it good that week. But then a right miss started coming in. And it would come out of nowhere, and he couldn't really control it. So that right miss started showing up more and more in 2015. You saw the results in 2016 and beyond, because the problem is when you're a player and you fear it going one way, what do you inevitably do? You fear it going that way, so you overcorrect and you freeze up and go left. So the problem is you can play golf even if it's a bad miss. And he said this was a bad miss, right? He was losing golf balls. He was doing all sorts of things pros don't usually do. But when you start getting fear of both ways, it is not a good place to be. It's like a NASCAR driver or a race car driver having a fear of the wall. You can't. You have to be in the moment. You have to be out there, and you can't play with any kind of tension and fear. And he just said it exactly. But hats off to him. Rick Ankiel, the pitcher, who threw a couple of ground balls, like pass balls, and he got the pitching yips. He threw them in one game, and he couldn't pitch anymore. They had to move him to the outfield. He wrote a book on it. And I think that was key to his success. And also Bradley Hughes. I played with Bradley Hughes on tour, one of the best ball strikers, really nice guy. I tell you what, this guy's a great teacher, and he really helped Todd because Bradley could relate as a former tour player and put it all together, and Brendon did the work. And I can tell you, Steve, one of the nice guys in golf, so it's good to see Brendon Todd back. I saw him in Columbus. You mentioned it. And I was like, this guy's not going to be playing out here very long. This guy's coming back. I really think he's got everything starting to come together. As I said, so few players, they don't come back from this. Brendon Todd did.